Struggling with scanning errors and peeling labels? Moving or reconfiguring your warehouse? Implementing a new WMS? The wrong labels can slow your operation down. Luckily, ID Label has durable, scannable barcode labels and signs built to last and keep your operation moving. Plus, if you need to get those labels installed, they've got it covered. Their expert team installs rack labels, overhead signs, floor striping, and more with precision, so your warehouse operations continue uninterrupted. I've installed tens of thousands of labels in my career, and I wish I had someone else do it for me. Get a free sample pack at idlabelinc.com, because when they do the barcodes, you can do more. That's idlabelinc.com for a free sample pack and more information.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I have a returning guest from 5 years ago. We were checking, the last time we had him on was episode 80, so a long time ago in the podcast history, I guess we'll say. But I'm going to be joined by Andrew Smith, and he is the founder and CEO at Outrider, which does autonomous yard operations. And we're going to talk a little bit about Outrider for maybe people that didn't hear that episode 5 years ago, what they do. But we're also going to talk a little bit about what they've been up to in those 5 years and some of the latest updates with Outrider and what they're seeing in the space overall, and a little bit too on how they're leveraging AI within their solution as well, which I'm interested to dig in with Andrew today. So Andrew, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much. It's a good bookend here. It's great to be back.
Definitely happy to get you back. And I know when we first talked was very excited about what you're doing and still excited about it, definitely. But I'm very curious to hear what the latest is and what you've been up to over the last 5 years. I mean, I've been watching, and seeing some of the news out there and things like that, but nothing like an intimate conversation to learn exactly what's going on. But before we dive into all of that, for people that maybe are not familiar with Outrider, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is you do and about your solution?
Absolutely. So Outrider is the pioneer and leader in autonomous yard operations. So for your listeners, if you think about it, there's a huge amount of exciting technology and innovation coming to over-the-road trucking. There's a lot of technology you talk about that's inside the warehouse. What Outrider really owns and is focused on delivering value to our customers is that gap between the over-the-road transportation and everything that happens inside the warehouse or production facility. So what's classically known as the distribution yard. Also, you can think of an intermodal rail terminal or a port. It's where containers and trailers are being moved back and forth between our over-the-road networks and what's going on inside these buildings. And so what Outrider does is we create the software and technology, the robotics essentially, that moves things seamlessly in this part of the supply chain. And the efficiency and safety and sustainability that we bring to the yard has benefits not just to the companies that operate these yards, but we also get the right trailer to the right loading dock at the right time, driving efficiency inside the warehouse. And we streamline how long over-the-road drivers have to spend coming in and out of yards by having the trailers ready for pickup on the other side. We are about 140 people. There's lots of very cool technology, but just to sum it all up, we get a simple electronic message from a warehouse management system that says, hey, we want trailer 26 to loading bay 4. And using autonomous electric vehicles, our systems can use AI and deep learning to know the location of every trailer or container in a yard environment. We can go hitch to it fully autonomously. We can maneuver it through traffic and complex yard environments and place it at a loading dock with centimeter accuracy, all autonomously.
Yeah, and I think it's such a great thing because I've worked in operations and been around the yard, and it's certainly there's a lot of challenges around the yard itself. I mean, you touched on the safety, the accuracy, the sustainability aspect too as well that you're leaning on as well. And I think it's such a great thing to see that, because I guess tell us to give some perspective for maybe people that aren't necessarily familiar with like some of the higher volume yards and things like that. I mean, how many movements like on average are some of these operations seeing, and what are some of the results of like that high volume movement that can be happening in a yard?
Yeah, so for folks that aren't spending time in a yard, you can imagine these very big containers and trailers coming in, and then a need to move these very fast through these yard environments. So our customers have yards that do anything from a few hundred trailer moves a day or a week to thousands and thousands of trailer moves. And again, what you have is you have over-the-road tractor trailers coming in to these yards. They have to get unloaded. They have to be then brought to the other side of the building to get loaded again. So again, hundreds or thousands of trailers getting dropped off in these big distribution yards by the over-the-road trucks. And then these vehicles called yard trucks that Outrider automates then does all the shuffling of trailers to get unloaded, to get moved to a staging area for unloaded trailers, to get moved to a place to get loaded again, to get moved for a staging area for over-the-road trucks to come pick them up. So lots of movements. And some of the real pain points in these environments are, number one, this is tough work. Your drivers are going through all hours of the day. So these are 24-hour operations, all weather conditions, and you're basically doing the biggest hassle of a driver's day, which is backing these things in very, very tight environments, very hazardous environments. You also, when we automated yards, we realized it wasn't just about automating the vehicle, it's also automating all these manual tasks in order to get people out of this environment. So when people are connecting to and disconnecting from these trailers, there's a lot of slip and fall accidents. There's a lot of people around 80,000 pound pieces of equipment in the dark of night and in wind and the rain. This is not a safe place for humans to operate. So our technology doesn't just automate the vehicle, but these other manual tasks. So for example, every one of Outrider's vehicles has a deep learning driven robotic arm on the back of the truck. And so we connect the air lines or electric lines of a truck to a trailer, so a person doesn't have to go connect those hoses. This is critical to our ability to serve this industry, is not just moving trailers, but connecting to and from them in this environment.
Yeah, and I think there's such an emphasis on the safety aspect there. I think for me, right? Because I mean, I've heard definitely some stories about yard accidents and things like that, and I've had a former worker that experienced that too as well, and it is very dangerous. I mean, think about all these containers. You think about lots of movement happening, and there's low visibility because the trailers, containers are so tall, right? And then there's lots of movement, and then like you mentioned, 24-hour operations at night. It's dark. I'm in New Jersey, it snows, right? Then you're still moving, containers, even though it snowed, right?
It's a super hazardous environment. And again, the hazards come in multiple forms. So you've got hazards to the drivers that are getting in and out of these trucks, connecting to and from trailers. You've got the hazard to the other over-the-road drivers that are trying to get in there and move through traffic quickly. They might not know the yard. They might not know where to put their trailers. Then you've got hazards to the warehouse workers as well. And that's the risk of a driver pulling a trailer away from a dock when a warehouse worker is in the back of that trailer with a forklift, et cetera. So these are some of the most, sketchy things that are happening in our supply chain. And now we have the ability to provide these amazing tools to people to give them this distance from these really hazardous conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great. And I love that about this solution. So now tell us, since we talked last, I mean, tell us like, What's new? What's evolved with this solution? What have you learned from, additional customers that you brought on? Tell us kind of all the latest with Outrider.
Yeah, absolutely. So much has gone on since 2020 when we first came out of stealth mode and introduced this whole market concept to the industry. And I'll tell you really, the most amazing thing is what was sort of core to us in the very beginning was making sure we had this integrated, streamlined product. But what's occurred in the last 2 years and how we've applied deep learning and AI specifically to the physical world has blown away what we even thought was possible when we first spoke back in 2020. So when we spoke back in 2020, we were automating all the key aspects of moving a trailer back and forth. We now have just an absolutely incredible team that has used the absolute cutting edge technology to allow these systems to operate in more and more complex situations with less and less change required by customers to integrate this system into their yards. So a couple of the pieces that we use AI in that just allow this to seamlessly integrate with an operation. Like I mentioned, every one of our vehicles has all these sensors and all this compute capability. We now can locate any assets in a yard, which is one of the biggest pain points is when an over-the-road truck comes in, they're running out of time. The parking space they were supposed to park in is not available, so they go park a trailer on the other side of a row of trailers. Like that can take an hour for someone to go track that down, or a day in some cases. Our system is real-time locating all these aspects. How we maneuver among traffic is just sort of amazing. I just was at one of our customer sites last Wednesday, and I had forgotten something, and I came back to this work trailer out in the yard where some of our engineers were testing some technology, and I parked the pickup truck in a pretty random place to park it. And just as I was coming back out to the pickup truck, I saw the autonomous vehicle was actually doing a production move. It was placing a trailer at a loading dock, and I had essentially blocked the ability for this autonomous truck to get where it was going. And the system, using this reinforcement learning, it's been trained now over years of Outrider experience with these customers. It maneuvered in a way that a human would never even think about doing.
Really? And
wove away and then placed this trailer with centimeter accuracy between two other trailers in this super tight parking spot. And it did it. And then the robotic arm disconnected the brake lines and it moved on to its next move. So truly impressive stuff and an order of magnitude more capable than when we spoke back in 2020. A couple of the other big updates we've had, since we first spoke, again, we were just launching the company and the core capabilities of the system. Since then, the company has brought in investment by over 200 million in investment from some of the absolutely stunning group of investment partners. So we've got large strategic investors as well as some of the largest global investors looking into the future of supply chain automation backing the company. What this allows us to do is not just build cool robotic systems, but really make sure that we've got technology that can meet the harsh environments of these customers we serve. It's not about just supplying a robot. It's about supplying a reliable system that can operate as part of mission critical operations of these companies. And so that's where we've put those dollars. And then lastly, I'll highlight, really there has not been this category of yard automation. So Outrider really has been on the forefront of defining the safety case to allow some of the largest robots in the world to operate in these mixed environments. And so this is not a Waymo car or a Tesla car out on the road. There's a very specific set of hazards you have to deal with. And we have to connect to and move these trailers that have no sensors on them that are being dropped off on a daily basis. And so we've built up a set of over a dozen proprietary safety mechanisms that lay on top of the AI-driven system and provide robust safety for these large robots as part of these critical operations.
Interesting. Yeah. And I mean, it's fantastic to hear kind of all that you've done and the growth there with the solution. And I think it's a great point that you said there. It's like, this fairly large robot essentially, right? That's out there operating autonomously and how do you look at that from like a safety perspective, which I think is great that you're tackling there. And I imagine too, I mean, tell us a little bit about, because you mentioned that really, interesting creative maneuver, right, to get around your pickup truck, which you blocked the robot's way, right? How does that improve, right? And how does the learning of, the way the robot maneuvers and manages through traffic or whatever scenarios it may come across? I mean, how does that continuously kind of improve with the more moves that are being done?
Yeah, so basically, with all of this machine learning, the more data you can feed into the system, including generative data, the system just gets better and better. Now, at the same time, this isn't like an iPhone app where if the answer comes out poorly or there's you create an image and it doesn't quite look right. We want to make sure that we're also backing up those systems with these safety mechanisms and protocols that doesn't allow the system to do strange things. So it's really a combination of two things. It's providing an immense amount of training data so that the system acts in the most productive way possible, but it's also having the experience to know how to make the system be predictable so others that are around it see what it's doing in movements as well. But the way we do this is every deployment we have, we've built up a set of data that is beyond anything else ever conceived in the industry. We've got top tech partners. In fact, NVIDIA, who probably most of your viewers know, is one of our large investors in the company because of our use of AI in the system and really being on the forefront of AI in the physical world. So yeah, the data set's very important, and the more diversity we have of experience, the safer and more efficient the system gets for all of our users.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's great to see how that technology allows like these solutions to continue to evolve over time. Like the more experience, more practice. I mean, just like, us as humans in a sense, right? I mean, the more we do something, the more reps we try, like the better we get, the more we perfect, right? And I think it's interesting to see how that over time continues to evolve for the machine, I guess, as well, as we'll call it, and even to the point where you said that like the maneuver it did was like it was like flawless. It sounded like, but it was a maneuver that a human would never even like think about doing, right? Like the human would probably be like, hey, whose truck is this, right? Like,
yeah.
And then like everybody's calling around like, whose truck is out here? Whose truck, right? We got to move this truck. But I think that's very interesting to see, and that's like a great example of how the machine learning, the AI can kind of come into play and really, really help to improve and make things more efficient over time there. So now tell us a little bit about because the trucks are electric, right? So tell us a little bit about the utilization of kind of electric as the option there, and how does that kind of help to improve the solution and the operation overall?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Spoiler alert, your team hates manual unloading. And who can blame them? It's slow, risky, and exhausting. Tawi's container unloader eliminates the pain. Lifting loads safely and efficiently from inside containers. Engineered to lift heavy goods ergonomically from deep inside containers, it accelerates unloading while keeping your team safe from strain. Safer workers, faster turnaround, and better efficiency. Better for your people, better for your bottom line. Lift smarter. Visit Tawi.com today. That's TAWI.com.
Yeah. So when we built this company, it was just so obvious that the yard of the future was both autonomous and electric. If there was ever an application for electric vehicles, here you've got these facilities that already have power coming to them. It's a low distance, and there's peaks and flows of activities in almost all of these yards. So you've got perfect opportunities for opportunistic charging. But on top of that, the electric vehicle provides this stable power platform and a lower cost of ownership via lower maintenance solution. So if you've got this thing operating autonomously, you don't want hundreds and hundreds of additional parts involved with a diesel engine that need to be serviced and maintained, if you can have this very simple, very reliable electric platform. So Outrider was electric focused from the beginning. All of our major customers are looking to both automate and enhance the sustainability of their supply chain. And so, as we've said, we have engineers that are completely capable of automating diesel trucks, natural gas trucks, nuclear power, coal-fired trucks. But the reality is, for the associates working there and the future of the planet, the world's going electric because it is the superior platform. So we're really proud of having worked with partners to get to that place. What we see now, which is exciting, is even as incentives go away, electrics really are becoming the new standard of the industry. And, for anyone buying vehicles in 2025, not buying autonomous capable vehicles, you're basically adding a couple $100,000 to your operating cost per vehicle on an annual basis, because the slight additional cost of electric and an autonomy kit pays for itself many times over the operation life of that vehicle. One other comment on the electric platform is what we see as well is by having electric combined with autonomy, we have pretty perfect understanding of the usage cycle of those vehicles. And so we're also helping our electric vehicle partners think about battery kit size, because we know exactly the operating profile of these customers. So as they expand it to more and more yards, you can also bring down the capital cost by customizing what that battery size looks like, because you have an autonomous system opportunistically recharging it, let's say every few hours when there's a lull in activity, and then you don't have to put so much capital cost into having this huge battery that serves all needs going forward. So we really see ourselves as a partner to our customers in bringing this technology through their supply chain.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's interesting to see that too, and like the shift happening there as well. And it's great that you're enabling that for some of your customers to be able to do that. And you mentioned the autonomy kit. So are you creating your own yard trucks and then adding it, or can you add it onto existing fleets as well?
Yeah, so early in the company, we designed all sorts of ways of reinventing yard trucks, but there's a lot of pieces of a yard truck that are very attractive and have gone through years of development. So we're partnering with base yard truck platform suppliers, and then we work with those suppliers to then layer on a kit which has been custom designed by Outrider Engineering to meet the safety and autonomy capabilities of the yard environment. So this is a suite of a multimodal suite of sensors, a robotic arm connection system, everything you need to track, like I said, the inventory of every trailer in the yard and the ability to autonomously connect to the diversity of trailer types out there. So you layer that hardware kit on top of base platforms that come from our partners. That lands at a site. There's a very simple digital map that's created, and that's systems linked into the yard management or warehouse management software systems of our customers. And like we love to say, that the youngest person to move multiple 40,000-pound trailers with centimeter accuracy was a 3-year-old child of one of our engineers. With a click of a button, they can go send multiple autonomous trucks to go move trailers through a yard.
Interesting. Well, you're getting started young. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, you're getting started young. Yeah. We had to check on labor requirements when it gets that easy for those that young age. But
yeah. It's certainly not strenuous, if they're just pressing a button. So
it's sort of funny, like buying a diesel yard truck is going to be more and more like buying a diesel forklift inside the warehouse. Like it just the electrification inside the warehouse is spilling outside, just like the automation is starting to spill outside as well. Now, one other comment is, with all this automation robotics, how you integrate humans into the loop is also critical. So the reason our trucks have cabs is because even though the robot is super capable, there will be situations where we get parked in by an over-the-road truck, or there's a giant snowbank that gets plowed in, or there's a trailer that's left outside the operating area. So all of our systems, we're able to communicate through tablets, pagers, or other notifications to site workers. So if they ever need to assist the system or utilize that autonomous truck for something that a human wants to do, you're able to jump in that cab at any point and use it like an asset that you normally would. And once you're done doing whatever you want to do, you can drop it back in the autonomous operating area, put it into autonomous mode, walk away, and it'll keep doing work while you're going to have lunch.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I was curious about that because, it sounds like, in a lot of the scenarios here, I mean, you mentioned the 3-year-old pressing the button to get it to make the move, but you're taking a lot of like the human element out of it from like the actual physical movement part of it. So in your view, in your eyes, I mean, how do you view, the relationship between, I guess, robots and humans in the long term? Like, what does that look like, a couple of years from now? How does that relationship kind of continue to evolve?
That's great. So very, very complementary. So with all of our customers, essentially, we see this technology phasing in at approximately their attrition rate, or there's other applications inside the warehouse with over-the-road trucking where our customers want to put their associates. So interesting, there's very little direct job loss at all. It's more you're creating this ultimate tool and addressing this pain point of constant turnover of these yard hostler, shifter, yard dog drivers. There's lots of names for the yard truck.
Yeah.
But what we've really wanted to create is this ability to turbocharge the people that work at these facilities by giving this ultimate tool. So you'll always have the need for humans to oversee these systems and make sure the systems are doing the work that they want them to be doing. We'll have an example where a plastic bag might blow over a fence and blow onto the front face of a trailer, and then you can't autonomously connect. So then the question is, how can you very quickly, communicate with a human driver that remains on site or someone inside the warehouse to go deal with that issue? And those are all proprietary pieces of our system that have been built in to have a very clean relationship. At one of our sites, as an example, as we phase in more and more autonomous vehicles, they're just going to partner up a human yard truck driver with 2 or 3 of these autonomous systems. So there's some types of moves because they go off property or across a public road where they'll have a human driver there, but that human driver can kind of keep their eye on these other vehicles, and you can really turbocharge workers at the site.
Interesting. Yeah. It's interesting to hear you view it as complementary because I think that it's, there's a lot of different perspectives, right, on robots coming into the operation or just in the work world in general, right? What does that look like long term, and what does that mean for the human worker? But it sounds like you're taking, as we talked about earlier, you're taking kind of that dangerous kind of job out of the element here for the human, right? Making it autonomous in most aspects, and maybe there's some exceptions where the human has to jump in, and I gotta say, a plastic bag blowing over the fence covering like the trailer, that sounds like something that has definitely happened because it's a very specific exception. So I think seeing that and making that happen, I mean, I think that complementary aspect certainly allows for the human worker to have a better job in a sense, right? I don't think anybody out there switching trailers right now when it's like snowing out or something is loving what they're doing, right? So I think it's really interesting to hear that perspective and also get the updates here on Outrider and what's been going on with the solution and how you've been evolving the company as well. So now if we look towards the future, additionally, I mean, what does the future for Outrider specifically look like?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for asking. So, our mission as a company is to drive enhanced efficiency, safety, and sustainability into the global supply chain. And it's really exciting. Throughout 2025, we will be continuing to increase our commercial deployments with our customers. Again, we've worked very closely with some of the biggest companies in the world to refine this technology. The latest generation of the technology is just so exciting in so many ways. It's becoming a very, we want to make this a very easy decision. So between the reliability and cost effectiveness, and as I mentioned before, the sheer craziness of buying a truck today that's not autonomous and electric, when you think about, the next 5 years of that vehicle, we want to make that easy as possible for our customers. And it's been great to see that. But the reality is we are just getting started. So we are working with companies that represent 20% of all the yard trucks in North America. This technology, we really see the Outrider software becoming a standard for the industry, especially as that data set builds up and the performance and the safety keeps getting better. But it's really just getting started. And what Outrider's done, bringing together a team of leading developers in the AI space, in addition to robotic manipulation and safety. It's really exciting to see where mobile robots will continue to contribute to how we move goods sustainably through the supply chain.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that, there's so much more to do, right? As you said, you're just getting started. And I think, it'd be really interesting to see how that continues to evolve. And we'd be very interested to continue watching what Outrider is doing and how you continue to evolve. And, and maybe next time we won't wait 5 years to talk.
Yeah. There we go. Well, the rate at which things are going, we should do these every 6 months. And that was great, Kevin. Thanks so much.
Definitely. Absolutely. So it was a pleasure to get you back on the show and talk a little bit about what's the latest with Outrider and some of your perspectives on the industry as well, and the relationship there between robots and humans and how that continues to develop. But if people want to learn more about Outrider or get in touch with Outrider, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, please just visit our website at www.outrider.ai and reach out, and we look forward to supporting the broader industry.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes here. So, Andrew, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Enjoyed this episode? Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and for more content from the New Warehouse, find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Links to subscribe can be found in the show notes, and for everything The New Warehouse, head to thenewwarehouse.com.